So holiness is not a word that gets a lot of 27-year-olds excited. However, I have noticed that there's a lot of interest in things like mental health, a lot of interest in health in general, body health. There's a lot of interest in spirituality and being spiritual, of a sense of wholeness, of, stability. Peace is a big word, and happy is a very big word. But holiness, not so much. It's not like you show up in groups of young people or even old people and they say, well, I just really would like to be holy. It's just not something that goes over very well, and nobody really has a vision for it. Well, we're going to talk about that today, and we're going to talk about it with the help of Henry Scougal and his little book, The Life of God in the Soul of Man, and with the help of Joe Frost. Hi, Joe. Say hello.
Hi, Mike. Nice to see you.
And I am Michael Stewart Robb, better known as Mike, and this is Life Books. Hey everybody, welcome to the Sanctus Forum. I am Michael Stewart Robb, as I've already said, and we are doing life books here today with Henry Scougal's The Life of God in the Soul of Man, and I hope you've all purchased a copy of it and that you've all subscribed to our channel, as well as perhaps signed up for our almost monthly newsletter. But if this is the first video that you're happening to see about this and talking about this Scottish guy who's 400 so years old, maybe you should watch our first video. And just to let you know, there will actually be yet another video, or so we hope, as long as Joe keeps cooperating. But yeah, hey, Joe, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back. We'll see how terrible I am as to whether or not you do invite me back for the third episode of this, but it's great to be back now.
Yeah. Are you feeling holy today?
Very holy. No, it is an interesting word, isn't it? We sort of get all a little bit antsy and uncomfortable when we talk about holiness. It has a very quick judgment connotation attached to it, which doesn't come out in this book. And that's, I think, what I find really refreshing about it. But in our world, holiness means self-righteousness. And that is a very different concept.
Yeah. Well, actually, he doesn't use the word holy a whole lot. So if you don't like that word, maybe you'll be fine with the book. But in general, when you get into sort of Western Jesus' spirituality stuff, this is holiness territory that he's in, and even his word here, the life of God or the divine life, that's kind of his way of talking about holiness. What we want to talk about it today, for all of you. We just want to try to get a sense of what he means by holiness and how that connects with, for him, happiness and wholeness. And that's his real idea, that those two things go together. So help us, Joe, here. What does he mean by, let's use his term. What does he mean by the divine life?
Yeah. I think you've just hinted at it, that why is he writing this book? What problem is he trying to solve, or what message is he trying to convey? And what he's trying to do is say, what does a good life look like? Why are we here? What does fulfillment look like? What did Jesus mean when he said, I've come to bring life and life in all its fullness? And he contrasts the natural life, the world of the beasts, and just sort of getting on and doing stuff, and he contrasts that with the divine life. And there's quite an othering going on, which I think is also what we mean by holiness. It's different. It's approaching the world we live in from a different vantage point. And he's saying it's not about the natural and being slaves to your physicality, your environment, your emotions, whether or not you're having a bad day, if somebody cut you up when you were driving along. Instead of the world dictating your life and how happy you are, the divine life is an inner being. It's this orientation inside you that connects you with the happiest being in the cosmos. And by being connected to the happiest being in the cosmos, your life in turn becomes happy. And so it is a separation from the natural and a union with the divine that ultimately results in a happy life.
Well, Joe, that was really well put. I'm only going to butcher it from here on out. You can see Joe's done all these studies in communication, so I'm just learning from her through this. But one of the things that you said there that really sticks with me is he wants to say it's different from the animal life, the life of the beasts, which his idea is that we have a similarity with the other animals that live here on the earth, and you don't really have to decide whether you're going to have that life or not. It's just you're born with that one, and you just deal with it. The divine life, and what he's talking about there, is not something that is just gonna come upon you. It's something that needs to be chosen, pursued, and received from God. Right? And I think we think sometimes that happiness and wholeness comes from playing to our animal life, as if that would be just sort of natural for us to be happy beings if we just let our bodies do what they really wanted to do and let our minds go wherever our minds wanted to go, and just get back to the roots of our I want to say our evolution, but where we came from, I guess. And he wants to say, no, that's not how you really get healthy and happy.
Really bad idea.
It's a bad idea. And then you had this really great remark, this idea that part of seeking health and wholeness and happiness, you said, is being connected with a happy God. And he is the root of happiness in human culture. And you want to find a happy and healthy person, go find somebody who knows God. That's not easy still, is it? I don't know what people would say of me. Am I a happy person? But where are you with that? I mean, do you I can kind of tell you're kind of a jovial person, but even there, joviality isn't what we're really talking about. It's something else.
Yeah, absolutely. I often get described as joyful, and I'm like, I smile a lot, but how do you know that I'm joyful? And because joy is something different. It's not the external. It's not dictated to by whether or not somebody cracked a joke or I'm having a good day, and it's not diminished by a bad day. There's something else. I suppose that there's a few thoughts just by what you were talking about. One is the psalmists that talk to their souls. Why are you so downcast, O my soul? And actually they remind the soul has a part to play in participation with the happiest being in the cosmos. Actually, it's an orientation. Why are you looking here when you could be looking there? Actually, what's our perspective? What are we focused on? But it isn't a blindness, and that's the other thing for me about God is, and actually one of the points he makes about Jesus, I think he overplays it, but he talks about the sorrow of Jesus, that we don't see him laugh and we don't hear what his sense of humour is. He weeps, he mourns, he cries, he's moved with compassion. He is struck by the suffering and the sorrowful nature of our world. We have a God who is embedded, incarnated, Emmanuel. He is with us. He gets when it's rubbish. And yet, he also participates in the fullness of life, abundance, lavish, goodness, joy, love, grace. All of those things. Our sorrow is fleeting and our joy is eternal. And so he doesn't ignore the rubbish. You're allowed to have a bad day and bring that bad day to Jesus because he cares. But when we orientate ourselves and that's all we see, or that's all we allow God to be, all God is brokenhearted, and he is. But I need a broken-hearted God who is in his essence joyous and lavish and gracious and fun to be around. And that's a God I'm going to worship.
Yeah. Oh, and that's really what he's talking about here, is a different quality through which you would go into a bad day or come out of a bad day. I mean, that's a good sense of what he's talking about. His word isn't happiness so much. He talks about the excellency and the advantage of religion, and he actually has a bunch of words for it: felicity, pleasure. He changes his word quite a bit, but happiness he will use. But he's talking about something that's going to be there even in those rough spots. And maybe you've had experience with that as well, where you can have a rough day and deal with it in an entirely different way, in a maybe relaxed and peaceful way. Or you can deal with it in a way that just gets you even more agitated or even more depressed, and that's the difference. And that's what he's after. There's a bit of a structure to the book. Like, if you pay attention, you'll see him repeating things over and over. And one of the biggest patterns in here are 4 things that he thinks the divine life consists of. Again, his word for holiness, his word for, the best that human beings can hope for. And they are love to God. Next up.
Charity to others.
Yep.
Purity of body.
Purity
and
and humility. Yeah, those 4 things. So, write those somewhere in your book, because you will see him come back to them again and again, and each of the chapters drags them up again. But, with a lot of the books out there, or maybe it's sort of new media, sort of podcasts or videos and that, a lot of people trying to help other people. I don't hear a lot of people say, well, what you really should do is love God. That would help you a lot. Instead, it's like live in the present or something like that. That would be, focus on what's here now. And in a sense, his advice is opposite of that, isn't it? It's don't look so much at what's here now. Look at what you can't see, which is God. And orient your life around him and what he's interested in. That's there's a lot of that in the book, and sometimes he gets a little carried away and he talks for a long time on that, and then he leaves the other ones to go. The second one, charity, I think maybe we have that one still. Serving other people, looking out for the interests of others. That one's still kind of around, isn't it?
Yes, but he does it from an interesting perspective. So he talks, and we hear this idea that you don't love others because you're a good person. You love others because you love God, and they bear his image. And it gets a little uncomfortable towards the end of the book, where he's talking about this idea that you love others because they bear God's image. They are in some way made in the likeness of God. If you love God, you love his offspring. And we at the moment, put it in context, we are watching war in Europe because a image-bearing person has decided that he wants a country that is not his to have. And actually, we're meant to love that person, we're meant to have compassion to that person, we're meant to pity that person because he bears the image of God. And I don't think our culture does like that notion at all. In fact, that's a really hard thing to wrestle with, because we look at his actions and go, they are deplorable. And we look at the suffering of others and we go, we can have compassion in that direction, but how do you have compassion towards the perpetrator?
Yeah.
And that's a very difficult conversation, I think, for our culture to have. Our charity can only go towards the deserving. It does not go towards the undeserving or those who are in some way sinful according to our society. Once you have sinned, you are out. There isn't a lot of grace around for that kind of thing.
Yeah. And yet you might have to work yourself up to that level of I love the aggressor.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so hard.
What he wants to say is that if you get to that level and are on that path, you'll be better off.
Yeah.
You will
Absolutely.
have a kind of his word of excellence, with a sense of like you will be important, maybe significant. You'll have a sense of glory about you, and his idea of pleasure. It will be, you'll enjoy that place. And that won't necessarily make a war stop, but your position in the whole thing will have vastly improved.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing I love about his conversation about what does it mean to participate in the divine life. This idea of loving God, loving others, being pure, being humble. He sets an incredibly high bar, like so high.
Yeah.
Jesus high. But he doesn't assume that he's there or that you'll get there in 30 seconds, or this is a lifelong endeavour. It's that always message guy, the lifelong obedience in
Eugene
the same
Peterson.
direction. Yeah. That's the point, that we will always fall short of every single one of these ideals because they are divine ideals.
Yeah.
But the more we participate, the more we say, today I'm going to try. Yesterday I didn't, but today I'm going to try. and to experience the love of the Father who looks at us trying and goes, well done, my child, you're giving it a go. We know where we're headed, and we know we're going to get there. That's the gorgeous thing about this journey.
Yeah.
But in the mess, in the in-between, there's so much love and compassion as we just seek to do what we see the Father doing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you are right that he sets a very high bar, and I think that's really good because we sometimes don't ever hear that of what would this really look like if we got there. And that's what excited the Wesleys and George Whitefield to a guy like this, and what got them excited about holiness. And then the whole movement of people that followed them. We're going to have to probably save purity and humility for another video. But those are really not very trendy words right now, but there's a lot of good stuff to say in this about them. And I hope we can get into the next video a little bit more on the how-to, like what is he really recommending to us about how to get to that high standard. But great having you, Joe, again.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
Yeah. Have a great day, and to the rest of you, I hope you all also have a really great day, and that you look into holiness as perhaps what might be missing from your life to keep you from great days. And go ahead and subscribe to see our other videos, lots on the channel, and there is a podcast. This isn't a podcast, at least not yet. You can find those things around there, and our Institute's newsletter over at Sanctus.Institute. Sign up for that. But keep reading, keep working through nice and slow Henry Scougal, and we'll see you next time. Bye.